Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful weekend and a good start to your week. Yeah, this is Joe, and thanks for checking on me. I know I got consistent for a while, then I got busy and trying to go on a run again. I may have to pre-record some stuff here and there when I know I've got some busy times coming up. That way, keep the videos, keep the readings going for you. You're going to see a comment video probably before this where I thank some of you members, thank some of y'all that have left some super thanks. I appreciate it. It's all helpful. But let's get to reading, okay? Elvis in the Twilight of Memory. We are in the chapter called The Prophet. And this is where June, I think, talks about how she's the one that introduced him to the book The Prophet. Okay. Lying in his arms, I remembered a book I had received for a graduation present called The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. It always had a soothing effect on me. Maybe reading something other than the newspaper would do him good. It might even calm him down. Now, I was confused by his new possessive attitude, though. Elvis was upset about Dickie, the guy that gave her water skiing lessons. All right, so that's the part we just finished reading. And if you're wondering about this book and how to continue reading the rest of the parts that I've been reading, click on Rare Elvis Photos. It'll take you to my main page, and then click on Playlists, and then look for June and Elvis, and then sort by oldest to newest. If you do oldest to newest, then the very first video that you see will be the oldest one, which is video number 1. All right, so all of a sudden, excuse me, he wanted me under his thumb. He didn't seem to trust me anymore, if he ever had. My guess was that he had been exposed to more than his share of loose women. He always shied away from this type, but some of his companions, his entourage, they didn't. Oh, I can't read that. June. But let's say, getting a piece of his, she said something. In every different city was fast becoming the norm. Was he thinking that all females were the same? Now, as soon as we pulled up in front of my house, I ran inside, grabbed the book, and I brought it out to him. Here, said June, read a little of this. It might make you see things a little differently. And who knows, it might even make you a little wiser. June said that, leaning into the car and kissing him goodnight. June, I love you more than you'll ever know. I'll call you up in the morning, baby, before I leave from Memphis. You're leaving in the morning? Well, are you coming back, I said, crushed by the sudden news. I'll be back before you realize I'm gone, he said, reassuring me. And he was too, driving a new car. He decided that the convertible, especially with the autographed top, was too noticeable for any sort of privacy. The new car, which was a lavender Lincoln, was much more conservative and less likely to attract attention. Wearing a hat and sunglasses, which is a disguise, by the way, kind of sorts. I didn't realize it was Elvis that was parked in front of my house until he stepped out of the car. Why is that important to talk about? Well, you know, we read the book, Are You Lonesome Tonight? Well, about Lucy DeBarton. And I know there's a lot of debate on whether her story is true, whether it's not. Some people believe, some people don't. But there's some certain sticking points in that book that say, oh, there was no evidence that Elvis ever did this or did that. Well, Elvis would wear a little disguise because he didn't want to be noticed. And that's the one thing that that Lucy talked about, that Elvis wore a disguise. Hat and glasses. June says it 10 years after Lucy wrote that book. All right, so, all right, wearing a hat and sunglasses, I didn't realize that it was Elvis parked in front of my house until he stepped out of the car. You must be making a sack full of money, I said, laughing and rubbing the smooth upholstery. June cusses a little bit in this book. I mean, not terrible cussing, but I kind of keep it clean on my channel. I don't really have any of those cuss words. Anyways, I'm doing okay for a country boy, he said, leaning over the open glove compartment and showing me the copy of the Prophet. June, I love the book. Can I keep it? It's yours, my love, June said. I knew you'd like it. Now, I could tell by the way he was talking that he'd had a chance to do a little reading while he was gone. Now, when we got to Gulf Hills, Elvis passed the villas and drove into the driveway of a two-story house at the end of the road. How do you like it? He said, grinning. I didn't realize he was talking about the house until I saw the boys walking out to meet us. I rented it for the rest of the summer. I might even buy it later, who knows, he said, grinning. The house was owned by a family named Hack, so the boys nicknamed it the Hack House. Elvis showed me around, saving his upstairs bedroom, which had a balcony overlooking the living room, for last. No, not only was it private, it was also very romantic. Now, Elvis's parents were supposed to arrive from Biloxi that night. I need to get in touch with Mr. Bellman, June. Do you know where I can find him? He said, anxious about his parents' arrival. No, but my mother's home. I'm sure she knows where he is. Well, we drove to the back of the house and parked the Lincoln in the alley. Mama had the day off and was cooking red beans and rice. Hi, Mrs. Winico, he said, inhaling the aroma. Sure smells good in here. Will you do me a favor? Will you get Mr. Bellman on the phone? I'd like to talk to him about taking my parents deep-sea fishing. Eddie's on the way over now to eat some red beans. Have you ever had red beans and rice, Elvis? Mama asked. No, ma'am, I can't say I have. Now, when Eddie arrived, Elvis went to meet him at the door. Mr. Bellman, it's good to see you, sir. I've talked to my parents, and they're all excited about going fishing. They'll be here tonight. Do you think you can arrange another trip? Eddie went straight to the phone and dialed, but got a busy signal. Now, dishing out a big plate of beans and smoked sausage, I suggested we just eat now and call later. Well, Elvis and Eddie dove into their plates. I've never tasted anything like this before, Miss Winico. This is delicious. You'll have to teach my mother how to fix this when she gets here. Well, May's a great cook, Elvis. That's why I have her over here so much. Sorry. May's a great cook, Elvis. That's why I'm over here so much. Eddie went back to the phone and got through to Captain Thornton. Will tomorrow be okay, Elvis? Yes, sir. What time should we be there? Well, same time, same place. I'll take care of everything else. Thanks, Mr. Bellman. I sure appreciate it. My parents are going to love it, and I can't wait to do it again. So, it's the best time I ever had. Elvis said, shaking Eddie's hand the entire time he was talking. That's endearing. Elvis was excited, right? And I guess we got to take a look at it here. Yes, Elvis had a lot more money than he ever had. He was so busy touring and doing things that he didn't have the time to enjoy things like that. And prior to getting famous, he went out on no boat fishing, water skiing, stuff like that. That's for the richer class to do. And so you can tell he's excited, like legitimately excited. So that summer of '56, those films that Eddie Bellman recorded really was probably one of the happiest times Elvis ever had with June. Relaxing, free, feeling like life is changing. I hope we've all had like an experience like that. Whether it's being in love, whether it's going out and doing something fun that you've always wanted to do. Because I can just feel the enthusiasm. I could taste the enthusiasm in the reading of this book. And June does such a great job writing this book. And y'all can buy this book. It's on Amazon, I'm sure. It's on eBay. I don't think it's in print anymore. If it was, I would certainly send y'all a link to buy it. But I don't think it's in print. I had to get it off of eBay. I think it was $90, $90 I spent on it. All right, so Mr. and Mrs. Presley checked into the Sun and Sand Motel as soon as they arrived in Biloxi. They called my house and talked to Elvis. Now, we were to pick them up at 6 a.m. the next morning. My mother even made arrangements to take the day off, something she had never done, to go fishing with us. She was anxious to meet the Presleys, too. Now, my mother and the Presleys hit it off right from the start. Mama thought Vernon was one of the most handsome men she'd ever seen. She told him that Elvis got his good looks from both his mother and his father. Now, in her opinion, Elvis had his father's strong features and his mother's deep-set eyes. Mrs. Presley was complimenting Mama for raising such a fine daughter, and Mama was saying the same thing about Elvis being such a fine young man. By the end of the day, they were teasing us about having little blue-eyed grandbabies. Red, Vernon, and Elvis and I were the first ones to try our luck fishing. Sitting in the chairs across the back of the boat, Elvis was showing his dad how to get the line out and set the drag. Now, Elvis had only done it once before, but by this time that he was doing it, he was kind of doing it like a pro. Mrs. Presley busied herself making Elvis peanut butter and banana sandwiches. Well, there you go. Elvis loves his peanut butter and banana sandwiches, baby. Back in 1956. There's always this question of, well, did Elvis eat this? Did Elvis eat that? Well, he certainly ate the peanut butter and banana sandwiches in 1956. He certainly liked his bacon burned in 1956. Very crisp. And he didn't like his eggs runny. All right. When he started catching fish and had to keep both hands on the rod, she just held the sandwich for him, giving him a bite every now and then. Now, Mama had made some deviled eggs, and the boys were eating them whole. I yelled, "Save one for me!" And Elvis took one from the box and shoved the whole thing in my mouth, said June. It wasn't long before Mr. Presley was letting his line out and setting the drag like a champ. He wasn't about to stop and eat. Now, the deviled eggs were only an appetizer for Red, so when he got up to fix himself a sandwich, well, he gave his chair to Mrs. Presley. She didn't want to fish at first, but after pulling in a few, she was loving it too. Now, in the beginning, we'd been catching bonitos, but then we got into a school of big jack crevalles. Mrs. Presley, or crevalles, Crevalles. Mrs. Presley, relaxing between her fish, her line still over, suddenly got a strike. Now, the fishing line was rested on the side of her wrist. When the fish struck out, the line went zing, cutting her right across her arm and wrist. Now, sitting next to her, I saw the cut, still white, just before it started to bleed. Now, the same thing had happened to me before, June said. And I remembered the burning pain, so I took her rod and yelled for Elvis, who was only a few feet away standing. The big fish was taking the line out fast, so I gave the rod and reel to Red and took Mrs. Presley to the captain's quarters to find that first aid kit. Elvis sat down on the bunk next to his mother and put his arms around her. I was on my knees trying to be careful not to hurt her as I put on a bandage. When I finished, she kissed me on the top of the head. "Thank you, little Satnin. It'll be all better now," she said, trying to ignore the pain. Now the boat was rocking from side to side, and Mrs. Presley began looking a little pale. Well, I told Elvis to take her outside to get some fresh air, and I sat with her until she was feeling better. I remember moaning and groaning when the same thing happened to me, but she never once complained the whole time. Red, he finally landed the big jack fish responsible for the accident. Elvis picked up the gaff, hooked in a 50-pound jack, and he showed it to his mother. "Look at the size of this thing. There's no way you could have landed it by yourself, Mama." Well, I would have if he hadn't got me first. "Just give me a minute, I'll get another one," she yelled. She was full of they say, and vinegar. She was full of vinegar, and anyways, I can probably say words like that here and there, but I don't trust that YouTube's not going to do something crazy and knock a video back because it's not proper for advertising, I guess. All right. Now, I asked her if she'd eaten anything yet, but she said she wasn't hungry. I fixed her a sandwich anyways and insisted she eat, telling her what Mr. Bellman had told us about keeping a full stomach on the water. Within 30 minutes, her color was back, and she was fishing again. Now, it took her a while, but she did manage to land another big one, and all by herself, too. Elvis kept trying to help her, but she kept pushing him away. "If I'm strong enough to handle you, I can certainly handle fish," Gladys says. We were at least 2 hours from the shore by then, so at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the captain turned the boat and headed for the coast. We watched a school of porpoise swimming along with the boat. Even though everyone was tired and sunburned, it had been a great trip. We'd landed over 50 fish. That's a great fishing trip. About 5 miles from shore, another boat signaled us to stop. The captain, thinking they had engine trouble, pulled up next to them, and 2 members of the press jumped on board as their boat pulled away. Elvis was so mad about the intrusion, he refused to talk to them. We stayed on the front of the boat, with Red and Arthur standing in the walkway, making sure that they couldn't squeeze in. That's just dirty, isn't it? Elvis is out there having a good time. And if the press were that bad back then, in 56, imagine how difficult it was for Elvis to have any more times like this in the 60s, 70s. We pulled into the dock to find hundreds of fans waiting. We stayed at the dock long enough to have a few pictures taken from the pier. Now the reporters then got off the boat thinking everyone was getting off as well. But when the boat pulled out, Mr. and Mrs. Presley, Elvis, and I, along with Captain, were still on board. The fans all raced to their cars and followed the boat all the way down the coastline. Well, we managed to lose them on the east end of Biloxi when the boat went behind the seafood factories lining the shore. Mr. Bellman was waiting for us at one of the factories with both his car and Elvis's car too. Elvis couldn't figure it out how he'd even manage that. How did he get 2 cars there? The fans were following the boat. They didn't know where they were going, but I did. I'll drive your mother and father back to the hotel. You wait here for 10 or 15 minutes. Then you shouldn't have any problems getting back to Gulf Hills. Thanks, Mr. Bellman. You're a hell of a nice guy. If I can ever do anything for you, I hope you let me know. It's my pleasure, Elvis, my boy. I'm one of your biggest fans, Eddie said, proudly extending his hand. Now, during all the excitement, Elvis had forgotten to tell his parents he'd reserved them a villa at Gulf Hills. Instead of going there, he drove to my house, parked in the alley out back. He called his daddy and told him to check out of the hotel. He was going to go meet them, so they could follow us to Gulf Hills. Mr. Presley got on the phone and told him not to come. Mrs. Presley got on the phone and told him not to come. The parking lot's filled with people. They think you're here in my pink Cadillac. It's so crowded, I'm afraid to go out. Stay right there, Mama. I'll think of something and call you back. Well, Elvis came in the kitchen and told us what was going on. Eddie came to the rescue again. Don't worry about a thing, Elvis. I'll make sure they get to Gulf Hills and take care of the fans, too. Within 20 minutes, Elvis was in the parking lot talking to the fans. He explained the Presleys were just passing through on their way to Florida to spend some time with Elvis and that Mrs. Presley was fearful of crowds. They all backed away from the pink Cadillac, and Eddie went to the Presleys' room to help them with their luggage. The crowd waved from a distance, and several fans were shouting, "We love Elvis! We love Elvis!" The Presleys waved back to the fans and drove off behind Eddie, arriving at Gulf Hills without one single fan following. Elvis and I helped them get settled in their villa, and the 4 of us went to the hotel dining room. Elvis's parents had both missed their afternoon caffeine break, and they were dying to have a cup of coffee. Maybe this coffee will help me stop rocking back and forth. I feel like a newborn calf trying to find his legs, Mrs. Presley said, still swaying away from the long day on the boat. Well, that concludes the reading. Thanks for being here. You got a choice, and you got a choice whether to watch it to the end like a lot of y'all do. Made it to the end, survived it to the end. I appreciate every one of y'all, and I hope you have a great day, a blessed day. Thanks for loving Elvis, and thanks for being part of this channel and being part of my life. TCB, TLC.